I sure hope you're enjoying the Recharge Your Life series. I'm your host, Phaedra Antioco. It's been such a pleasure to bring this series to you. And right now, I have a very special guest, Julian Noel. This is going to be an interesting interview that is a journey where Julian is going to share his experience in life. It starts off easy, life is good, hey, he has no problems, and then he uncovers what he had struggled with in his life and how he overcame it. So as you listen to these interviews, this one particularly too, see if you can put yourself in his shoes. If he tells a story, a part of his life, bring yourself back to maybe you had an experience with a disappointment or a divorce or a heartache or building a business. Maybe that happened to you. So Julian is going to guide you on a beautiful story journey here with me today as he talks about thriving through changes. But first, I want to share with you. And again, I'm Phaedra Antioco. I am a pain and trauma relief coach. I help people who are struggling and stuck. Maybe your life is not working. And that's why we're talking about how to recharge your life. Everybody tells a story. We've all told stories. And let's uncover these stories. Let's get rid of what is keeping us stuck and stopped and see if we can get in touch with your heart. But first, Julian, he is the founder of Shine. It's a global community of entrepreneurs and change makers creating a better world through business. And Julian is a coach, trainer, speaker, and facilitator of powerful conversations. And most importantly, a provocateur, that's a hard word, and catalyst for change. He asks big questions, listens deeply, and has great regard for his fellow humans. He's passionate about people working in alignment. We're going to talk about that today. Working in alignment with your highest purpose in mind. And his one-on-one work assists people to uncover and effectively integrate their purpose and prosperity. So please enjoy this interview and this journey of a story told by Julian. Julian Noel, thank you so much for being here with me today.
That's my great pleasure. Thanks very much, Phaedra.
Well, I met you through an app that you created, which is amazing. It's the best. I love it. It brings smiles to my day intermittently throughout the day, the Shine app. And you were offering free coaching calls, and I took you up on it. And here you are on my interview series. So I'm excited to share your work with the world. And so I first have a question for you. How would you refer to yourself? What do you call yourself?
Ooh. That's such a question. That's such a question. Before I leap into that, I just want to say you look absolutely gorgeous today. And and I'm sure everyone who's looking at you is thinking the same. So I just want to start by acknowledging that. I really avoid putting myself in a box around what I do, because as soon as you say, I'm this or I'm that, people immediately have a box, and you sit nicely into that. Exactly. So I guess I'm essentially a very curious human being. I'm really curious about what makes us work, what brings out the best in us, how do we deal effectively with difficult situations, how do we engage in life in a way that really lifts us up, and so I'm curious, and I would say I was a provocateur, and that I provoke and I ask questions and I listen really, really deeply. I think they're the principles that I work with. And for me, it's about honoring the person who I'm speaking with. So that to me facilitates a deep process of listening. So I fall in there in terms of what I do. And I guess for people who do like tags and names, who was sitting there rolling their eyes and going, "Oh,
thank you for honoring that side of me, Julia."
Yes. I coach people. I work with people around high performance. I work with entrepreneurs. I work with change makers. I work with visionaries who really have a bold vision about creating a new world, and they have an idea that's worth bringing into the world. They have a process or a product that they want to bring that makes the world a better place. So I work both with individuals and businesses.
Okay. Now, Julian, you're the creator of Shine. What is Shine? Tell me about that.
Ooh, that's one of my favorite questions. Thank you for asking me that. Um, Really, what Shine is, we've created a global community of entrepreneurs and change makers. So people who I just mentioned a bit earlier, people who really see business as a way of creating an even better world. So they'll have ideas or products or services that really uplift humanity. So I've created this community, this gathering place for people like yourself who really deal with people who are going through difficult times.
Mhm.
And so I think that, in terms of my relationship to the summit that you've created is people who are in transition. And there are principles. It doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, doesn't matter whether you're a change maker. Every human being, has to learn to deal with change, disappointment, divorce, diagnosis. And we all have to travel this landscape. So
Mhm.
what I'm hoping to do in this conversation with you is just point to some of the things that I've learned about this process of transition, the discomfort, the pain, the highs and the lows, and what's the context that we can put around that enables people to stay connected firstly to connect and stay connected to
Yeah.
the best part of themselves through really what can quite often be quite a disturbing, difficult journey.
Isn't it the truth? So, my specialty is helping people overcome pain. And
Mm.
I learned through my own trauma of a rollover car accident that the trauma can get stuck into the body. And there are these hidden traumas. And people come to me, they're in pain, physical pain, emotional pain, heavy, feeling stuck in life. And I have to dig deep and go and look at all the things that aren't working in their lives. And often it is so much going through a horrible divorce, losing a loved one, and really being stuck in grief, getting sick and can't find a way out of it. So, do you have any stories of hope, strength, and hope and overcoming that you can share to start here today?
Mm. Yes, look, um, I don't think anyone, any human being escapes trauma.
Mhm.
You know,
Well said.
one, you know, and it is that, like I love Buddha's quote, life is suffering. And when I first heard, I thought, oh, that's a cruel thing to say. But as I've aged and experienced more and more of life, there is a level of life which is very much about suffering.
Mm.
Um, and how do we best deal with that?
Right.
And the story that springs to mind most readily for me as a client I'm currently working with, one of the things I do is I coach people around preparing TED Talks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and TED is very much about, ideas worth spreading. And so I'm working with this woman, and she's an amazing and very, very successful entrepreneur. Gorgeous woman. She's in her mid-60s, and she's really been on this very big journey around coming into her own sense of power. And so we worked together on a talk that she gave. There was an audience of about 500 people, and she'd been asked to give a keynote, so she hired me as her coach. And as we started to unpack what was it really in her life she really wanted to look about was empowering women. And as we unpacked everything, the thing that held her back, the thing that dominated her in her two previous marriages that had both ended in divorce and had caused great upset and inner turmoil, was sexual abuse when she was a young girl.
Mm.
And the journey, the 40-year long journey to really fully unpack that, to be able to deal with these emotions and the trauma and the pain. And
Mhm.
so, as a coach, I went through that journey with her, of her sharing, and for her coming face to face with the real dynamics behind how and why she gave away power in the business where she was in partnership with her husband, and how she began to reclaim her power step by step by step, where she had been you know, when she started, she'd been given like a budget, an expenditure budget, you know, of like maybe $500 a month to buy staples and paper clips and small things for the office, through to becoming the CEO and making $1 million choices. And so tracking her journey alongside with the unpacking of her trauma and the need to really understand the impact, and then to finally say, I no longer want to be married to you, and I want to be seen for the value that I bring, and to be able to stand in that. And then when she stood in front of this audience, and they were predominantly women, it echoed, her story echoed into the chambers of so many women. You know, there are, I think it's 1 in 4 women globally have suffered sexual abuse, but it's all underneath. So mostly our traumas are deeply hidden, that we're shamed and become ashamed. And so we push them down, and then our ability to perform and function in life is likewise sidelined.
Yes.
So we can't get to bring the best of ourselves, no matter how much we want to, because there's a trauma box. And in that trauma box are probably some of the most valuable experiences for us to understand, to uncover, and to become free from.
I love that, the word trauma box, because it's so true, and we get so narrow-minded and stuck in that. Another thing that I help people do, because trauma, I believe, because I've experienced it myself, can get stuck in the body. It can get trapped in the body. And a lot of women, or even men with sexual abuse, I see so much having difficulty pregnancies, a lot of miscarriages, pelvic pain, back pain. It really starts to rear its ugly head, but it's looking at and standing in your power, finding your power, taking it back, right, during those challenges, that you can then really heal and shine awareness on it, dig through it, empty out the trauma box.
Yeah, I guess if there's one thing I would want to say to the audience members, you know, is every human being goes through dark periods. I've been through my dark periods, and you know, they in retrospect, never at the time, in retrospect, I see them as the most important periods in my life, where I am just asked, and in some cases forced, to grow, to shift my understanding. And it's the holding on to the old ways of doing, thinking, and being that caused me the pain. And I guess that's what, for me, I understand when Buddha said life is suffering, it was, you know, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And that when I am in my deepest pain, I know that there's something that I'm not willing to look at. And so to reach out to someone like you, or someone who's skilled in this journey of unpacking trauma, you know, I just want to say to anyone who might be going through a really tough time that there is a brighter day. There is a brighter day. And sometimes the doorway to the brighter day is through our darkest door. And that the human journey is very much, you know, influenced by Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. And no matter what dark things may have happened to us, we can lay them to rest.
So how do we uncover and unpack the trauma box? What strategies and tips do you coach your clients to?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say I was an expert in trauma, but what I do is I work with people as they transition to, you know, most of the people who I talk to are, I guess, being called to follow a deeper calling.
Right.
You know, that, you know, and you know, I think the world at the moment is in a process of incredibly dynamic change, when as a global culture and systems and structures, politically, socially, financially, we're going, wow, what we used to do no longer works, you know, and that to me really underpins change. And that to me is the opportunity to break through to a new level, a new way of being with life, a new way of understanding what a human being is. So I think one of the principles around change is curiosity.
Okay.
You know, really becoming curious, you know. Why am I doing this way? Why is this happening? How else might I deal with this? Who might be able to help? And just gently inquiring, not asking in a way that's blaming yourself, but being curious about, wow, what other ways might I deal with this? What am I to learn from this? What do I love about this? What do I loathe about this? What am I really longing for? So to, engage with what I call the 4 Ls is a really powerful way of really listening to your heart's, kind of message around, especially around what are you longing for? Give yourself permission. Longing is a very powerful thing, or asking, what do I want instead? If we're dealing with, scarcity issues, if we're dealing with poverty issues, if we're dealing with a mindset that, what do you want instead?
Mm-hmm.
So I think curiosity is a really important thing,
Mm-hmm. And I bet you're very resourceful. When something's not quite working in your life, you dig, and I bet you really work through it. You work yourself through it or find a way.
Yeah, and I think that comes from, 40 years of self-inquiry.
Okay.
I guess my kind of inner resources, I learned to meditate when I was 18. I'm 62 now, so that's a lot of daily meditation. Well, most days I'm not,
Thanks
but
for your
yeah.
honesty.
Yeah. So most days I meditate, I contemplate, I journal, I inquire, and I have little practices that I do that really bring me back to my center. And your first question to me was, what do you do? Kind of like, who are you? I guess I'm inquisitive. I'm really curious about what life is. And I'm more interested in a deep question than a big answer. I think once you've got an answer, well, end of it. But there's something dynamic in a question and in curiosity, which I think is powerful. And especially if you are dealing with an illness or a difficulty and a recurring chronic difficulty in your life, to be able to create a context around it beyond being, victimized by it, beyond being, driven into a pit of despair about it, finding a level of our own humanity that allows us to have dignity in the face of it, and to find it, not to spiritually bypass, but to really find your essence and your core. And for me, it's meditation, to sort of go beyond my sense of identity, I think that, yeah.
And I recall, I might be putting you on the spot here, because you're very connected when we had our coaching call, and you kind of, and you would ask very poignant questions. Can you recall any of those questions that you usually ask your clients?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the moment
Because
with
it
them. I
is an
don't.
energetic thing. You're connecting with another human being. Do you find that people are sometimes self-sabotaging, or, are doing a certain behavior that you can clearly see, but they're not seeing? So how you would bring that awareness?
I hate the term self-sabotage.
Okay.
I don't believe human beings self-sabotage. I think it's one of the cruelest things. I always think that we as human beings are making the best choice with our life. At any given our resources and given our understanding, the human being is always making the best choice. However, if we have some trauma in our background and our best choice is to repeat, to repeat a cycle of abandonment in relationship, to repeat a cycle of poverty in business, is to repeat, a cycle of violence, a cycle of shame. If that's our best choice, I never blame the person. I think it's a terrible thing to say, oh, you're self-sabotaging. When I know human beings are trying with the best of their ability to bring their best out into the world, because I think we're designed to do that. to be
I'm doing
brilliant,
my
to be
best. I
loving.
have a bookshelf of self-help books, Julian.
Mm,
I tell you what, I'm doing my best. I like
mm,
that. That gives me peace. It's like a more
mm,
a safer feeling than just
mm.
whipping yourself over the head and I'm self-sabotaging.
Yeah,
Because we are
yeah,
all doing the best we can. We really are.
absolutely. Yeah. And you know, and I know for years, you know, I would come up short, you know, when I was back in my kind of early career. I was drawn to be an actor, so I went through acting school. One of the best acting schools in Australia. Actually, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And for the first 2 years that I was there, I was floundering. I was, you know, and my classmates and my teachers and, you know, would all go, you know, this dude is hopeless. He's truly hopeless. And I knew on the outside that that's what it looked like. And to the point that at the end of my second year, they failed me. How you can fail as an actor, I'm not too sure. But
Hmm.
they failed me, said, you have to repeat second year. And they said, we've never, ever, ever failed anybody.
Ouch.
Um, and, and if we could ask you to leave, we would, but we can't due to our constitution. So you have to fail. So all through the summer break, I mean, I was absolutely bereft. I broke down in tears. I was sobbing. I was sitting on the steps outside the office. I was inconsolable, you know, absolutely inconsolable. And one of my teachers wasn't making it any better. He said, you know, you're probably ready to start the course now.
See,
And
I bet we all have these disappointments and these moments to really,
yeah,
my heart feels for you. And did you end up completing it or did you not? And did it end out for the best?
well, I went away over the summer break, and I knew that there was a brilliant actor inside of me.
Mm.
I knew it. I knew it. I absolutely knew it. And I was lost because I didn't know how to bring it out. I wasn't understanding the process. I wasn't understanding what I was being taught. So I disconnected from myself. I disconnected from my own creative, trying to please the teachers, trying to do exercises rather than just being a living, breathing,
Being.
performing human being acting. So I came back the next year just committed to doing my best work, you know, and first term was put in a play and I was given the smallest role in a 3-hour play. I had something like 7 lines and I was gutted. I thought, wow, it was a new director, it was a new class, and I thought, oh, I am so bad. But I thought, I'm not going to listen to that voice. I've got 7 words or 7 lines. They're going to be brilliant. So we went into the rehearsal process, and it was a very creative process. She was an incredible director. And so I just would get up there and just spontaneously do whatever I felt the creative urge to do. And I could kind of see the director going, oh my God. So anyway, the upshot of it was a 3-hour play. She liked what I did so much. I was on stage more than any other character there, but she made it how I could, you know, stay there. And I was getting all of these accolades from, you know, the teachers, fellow students when we did the performance. Like, wow, that was what you were doing was amazing. So I had just really trusted myself. And then the next term, I was in a play that there was only 2 of us in there, and same thing. I just set a really high standard for myself, and then after the opening night, I heard the head of acting go to the director and say, "That's the best piece of theatre we've ever put on in this school."
Oh, I want to hear about that inner process. First of all, I want to know, because it sounds
Mm,
like you conquered this, but
mm.
how did you feel inside? I mean, if you're telling this story now, can you almost your body feels those emotions?
So I guess first of all there was I knew I wasn't performing. I mean, you know, in a literal sense. I knew that whatever I was doing was not up to scratch with everyone else, and I was pretending to myself that I was. Then, when the truth was told, and you know, and as harsh as it was,
You took
when
it.
they said you really aren't up to scratch, and I had to let go of any illusion that I had that I was cutting the mustard, as they say here in Australia. I really wasn't. I wasn't doing, you know. And so then the third part of it was I had to come back to me. I had to fall back into me. And you know,
I love that.
I had a fire in my belly, and I knew, and it was my intuition that I always listen to, you know, that says, you know, go for it, go for it. So then there was this determination. And then there was the rigor of holding myself to account, you know,
And holding self to account, that's different than, you know, asking for accountability with someone else. I think holding yourself accountable, for me, I know, and a lot of my clients, is a hard thing to do it
mm,
alone.
mm.
But
Well,
what
I
is,
think, and that's why I'm really interested in high performance coaching,
okay.
you know, because it is about self regulation. You know, it's very much about attuning to the best part of yourself and knowing, you know, I'm really capable of being brilliant, you
Mhm.
know, and every human being is. But so few of us are willing to nail our colors to the mast.
Mhm.
You know, we are trained, we're acculturated to give up,
Ah.
you know.
Mhm.
And so it's like, no, if you really want to, you know, to me, and it's not everyone's approach, I want to be the best version of myself. I
Mhm.
really want to make a difference. I want to go into all those, you know, the brightest places in myself, and no matter how hard, bring that light into the world.
Beautiful. Do you have any tips for those? What do you do on a day? I'm sure we all have
Mm,
good days, we have bad days, when
mm,
you're maybe feeling stuck and
mm,
maybe not your most brightest person. What do
mm.
you do to shift out other than meditation? What do you find helps? Or what self-talk are you doing? What journaling practices are you doing?
I'm always very fluid. So as I said, meditation is the ground for me. But I've tried and done just about everything. And at the moment, I'm doing a lot of EFT, the tapping, emotional freedom technique. I find that's that's amazing. But every few months, there'll be something else that comes along that takes me to another level. You know, it might be, you know, I guess my constant ones are contemplating, asking deeper questions, also having a bunch of friends and peers who are like-minded, who I can go and talk to and say, I'm really having a difficulty with this. You know, can you reflect back to me what I might be thinking or doing, because something's not working for me? Um, can you help me? So I love to hang out with people who know a hell of a lot more than me. I find that that's a really great way to grow. I think community is really important, to be part of a community that's inquiring, you know, into the nature of life, so that I'm with like-minded people. I think environment is really important.
One of my favorite quotes that I see is pigeons don't fly with eagles. And
Yeah.
And I think it is important to go out, even if you're uncomfortable, to connect with other people, with other humans. And I think
Mm,
that's really something a lot of us need, especially I feel like here in America. I do
mm,
this in my own neighborhood. I drive home, I open the garage, I go in, I close the door. I don't walk out a lot of places. I don't know
mm,
my neighbors. So I have to make a conscious effort to drive out and meet
mm.
people we have meetup here
Yeah.
and things like that. So that's a good key point. That's really a
Mm,
good key point. And another thing, so relying on others, can you maybe explore with me how your meditation process looks? Like, okay, I'm going to
mm,
pause. I'm going to have
mm,
awareness inside my body. But
mm.
what's happening when you're inside? What are you doing?
Mm,
Can you explain
mm.
that to the
Oh, wow, wow,
a
wow.
deep question? Because I mean, I know I go into, I feel where the pain is. or whatever I'm
mm,
struggling with, or if there's a thought, I will
mm,
allow that, be curious and watch it. And then I'll tune
mm,
into where it's more neutral or
mm,
maybe even positive, where it feels good or pleasant.
mm, mm.
And so if you think about your experience and,
Yeah.
just what do you love about meditation?
Mm. For the last few years, I've been doing a process called Yoga Nidra.
Hmm.
Yoga, Y-O-G-A, Nidra, N-I-D-R-A. And the thing I love about that is that I drop beneath my identity. So I kind of fall through any confusion or any pain or any upset
Oh,
into this space where everything and nothing makes sense. It's a really restorative space. It's a really generative, creative space where I feel
mhm.
connected to my ability to be creative and to see things freshly. So, going through the different layers of, you start off and I'm distracted and, oh, I don't want to be doing this and what, no, oh God, those horrible feelings I'm trying to hide from and da. And then you drop into, oh, wow, this is peaceful. Oh gosh, wow, this feels really nice. And this kind of sense of illumination and this sense of connectedness and this profound sense of coming home. And then there's this silence. And then there's this dropping in.
I
And
like
it's like,
that. I think I give up.
wow.
I think a lot of people might give up because you stop, you pause from all life, the distractions, the busy, you go in,
Mm,
and I
mm,
don't think I would hold long enough. So
mm.
does it eventually, if you just tune into it, then you can sink down to a more peaceful place?
Yeah, well, to me, that's the whole point of meditating,
Yeah.
And there are many different types and styles of meditation, and they're all effective. It's just, I guess, the one that I like. The other thing I love doing is being in nature.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it was a fantastic. I mentioned before to you. I think it might have been before the call that I spent my last conversation with this very high-powered entrepreneur, and he's going through a transition and relationship breakup, and he's wanting to kind of anchor more deeply in himself. And I asked him, how does he currently anchor? He goes scuba diving and he spends time in nature. And I said, when you're in nature, what do you feel? And he kind of paused and went quiet, and he could just kind of feel this soft presence.
Mm.
And he said, majestic. I feel majestic, that I leave myself and enter into this a space of connectedness. And you see this guy, like he's like a bulldog, and really soft-hearted at the same time. And I think it's those moments of nourishment, you know, um, and I think moments of nourishment are really important, um, and how we navigate our day, from one delicious moment to the next.
Mhm.
It might be eating, food is a great way to connect to delight. Being with friends is a great way to connect with delight. Watching a sunrise, breathing fresh air. There are so many little moments where we can transcend, we can let go into the beauty of the day,
Oh, I love that.
yeah. So I think all of those things are really important, all of
Mm.
those little, little moments. Yeah.
So those are really great things to do through change, having to deal
Mm,
with change and transitions. Do you have
mm,
anything else to speak to someone who might know deep inside they need to make a change? They might
mm,
need to make a difficult decision or choice.
mm, mm,
How they could kind of get in touch with that, obviously meditation,
mm,
and how to
mm,
transition out of that into something better.
mm. Wow, there you go. That there you have the whole purpose of life right there in those couple of statements, Phaedra. Um,
Yes, you need a
um,
map and direction. So
mm,
knowing where you want to go is
mm,
important.
Yeah, yeah. So I address it with exploring with people four different things. Um, like the project that I have is shine, and I think there are four pillars to shining, and to explore what your highest or deepest purpose is behind the reason you're alive. So that's number one. Number two is, what's your gift? What is it that you do that no one else can do? So you're genius, and someone who I was talking to, before, she said, it's my capacity to love and be kind. And she's a professor in New York, and she was talking to me about how much love she feels for her students and for her co-workers and colleagues, and that when she's attuned to that love, the difference it makes in the quality of interactions with people. So that's the second one. What's your gift or your genius? What can you do and see that no one else can do and see? I really invite people to ponder, that one. The third one is your promise. And I work with people around it. It's a notion, right, that before we're born, our soul makes a promise. I will do this with my time on earth. And when we uncover what that promise is and act in accord with it, all manner of synchronicity and synergy opens up. And then the fourth question is, what's your pathway? Because those three questions are really quite internal. But what will that look like in the world, and in what way will it bring you commercial benefit? How will it put food on the table and, pay the rent and mortgages, etc.? So they're the four things I think, to really explore that allow you to bring the best in you to life. So, your purpose, your genius, your promise, and your pathway. Because then you have an aligned life. I guess it's what the Buddhists will call Dharma, which is right action. And right action is in accord with nature. It's in accord with your deepest kind of soul's promptings. So they're the conversations I hold with people. And I know there's a button somewhere if someone wants to link up with me and have a conversation. It's one of my offerings is, if you're watching this and you go, I'd like to explore that a little bit, you can come and have a free conversation with me.
And I do recommend it. I did, and I just loved it. That's why I said I have to interview you. But you brought up a good point about alignment. And I find that when we are not in alignment, it's painful. It's physical pain. It's neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain. It's heart pain. Let's speak to here with people about maybe your life isn't in alignment, but here's what you could start doing or being aware of to get more in alignment. Because that's flow. That is thriving when you are in alignment. I know that.
Yeah, look, I think that's one of the key principles is alignment. I think the other ones are clarity, being really clear, especially around those four questions. When you have clarity, and then you can see what you are aligning around, because then you can go, I feel drawn to do this. And I guess the really simple thing around alignment, and I quite often work with people around this, is to ask yourself, what are the things you love doing? Or I guess, if we want to give it a more professional kind of sound, is, what is your whole-bodied yes? What are the things in life that you are yes to? And some people go, oh, I love eating cream cakes, or I love walking, or I love time with my pet, or I love cooking, I love reading. And then you dive down into that. What is it about reading? Oh, well, it's the solitude. It's like I've got a blanket around me, and I'm able to go inside and explore worlds, within. So we get these little hints during the day, about the things that really deeply nourish us, and that we kind of long for, we crave for. And that to me is the simple way of, aligning, staying aligned to, oh, I love walking in the morning. I love watching sunrises. Like I watched the sunrise yesterday, and it was just the most ecstatic thing. You go, wow, and I just feel my whole being come alive. That to me is alignment, doing the little things that really have your heart like this morning sun, rise up inside you. So I think, to me, that's the essence of alignment. Find the simple things that you really love doing.
So then it's when you're not in alignment, it's really
Mm.
painful. How do you
Mm.
get back into alignment? Doing nature, doing the meditation, yes. But do you have any other tricks up your sleeve with your high performance coaching to help people? Because
Yeah,
I
yes,
remember
yes.
I'm having flashbacks now, and I'm going to grab my
Yeah.
vision board.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I think one of the most important things is choice.
Yep.
Like choose,
No, you have a
choose.
choice.
Yeah, choose to be aligned. So, um, it's, yeah, because everything happens as a result of our choices, you know. So we have to choose. Yeah, I'm choosing this better part of myself. Yeah, I'm choosing abundance. I'm choosing beauty. I'm choosing great food. I'm choosing aliveness. And even just saying that, I just kind of, ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. My cells start to do a little dance, and I start to go, wow, that's so cool. Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you. And now what happens when we start to make those choices is the brain starts to function in a different way. The synapses start to fire in a different way. The reticular activating system, starts to rewire, and then it starts to look for the things that you're choosing.
Nice.
So making the conscious choice it's such a critical piece. It's such a critical piece. And you can just walk around saying, yeah, I'm choosing a really happy life. I love being happy.
Do you
Gosh,
ever have
happiness.
a bad day?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
cheerful to listen to, and so bright. I don't think Julian has a bad day.
Yeah, I do. I'm human. I was being acknowledged at a meeting a couple of days ago, and they said, oh, he's always walking around with a smile on his face. And so I had to stand up and say, look, thank you all for being so nice. Yeah, and I might always walk around, but I said I experience every emotion known to man. And I'd spent some time a few years ago with the Academy Award-winning film director, Jane Campion.
Oh,
And I was kind of having conversations with her around one of her projects. And she said those words to me. She said, Julian, people ask me why, she won an Academy Award for writing the screenplay for the piano. And she said, the reason I can write so well is because I experience everything. The darkness, the greatness, the despair, the happiness, the terror, the dazedness. And I go, wow, yeah, gee, I'm the same. So yeah, I do think, I guess part of what I want to say to that is, I think I don't like the happiness myth. I don't like that we have to think that being happy is smiling all the time. I think being able to be with whatever's there, the good, the
beautiful.
bad, the ugly, it's like, it's all welcome to me. You're welcome. You don't define who I am, but I understand part of being human is to have fear, terror, upset, loss, grief, happiness, sadness, joy, delight, a full stomach, a starving stomach, abandonment, everything.
That's a good way to look at it, because it's really disappointing when we are trying to be happy all the time.
Oh, forget that. That's a
And
waste of time.
so I like how you're like, just accept the whole array of emotions, as
Mm,
that's the norm for being
mm.
in the now, being
Yeah,
grounded.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see that it's about, winning the game of life, Be curious. Yeah, this is part of being human, being sad. Like both of my parents died about 5 or 6 weeks ago, within
Oh,
two
I'm
weeks,
sorry.
within 2 weeks of one another. And I didn't grow up with my parents. I was a ward of the state. I was, brought up in institutions and foster families, etc.
Wow, are you serious? I'm just
Yeah.
taking this in because just my experience of you is just so loving, kind, grounded. And my thoughts would be, boy, growing up like that and not really
Mm,
feeling a sense of
Mm,
family belonging, or maybe
mm,
you did in your own way. You had to create it. So
mm.
you've really had to work through things.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have. And I think that's what makes me good at what I do. And it was certainly was I know why I was accepted into one of Australia's best acting schools was the range of emotions I had experienced, and they wanted people who had lived through, extraordinary things, because you can't portray them as an actor if you don't have a resonance within your own being. But yeah, no, when I was younger, I was violent. I drank. I would get into fights. I was a criminal. I broke into houses. I stole cars. I was angry, man, and I didn't know why. And I didn't know what was going on.
You were
And,
surviving.
and then what happened was I started having panic attacks, and
Mm.
it terrified me. I thought I was going mad, and I was about 16 or 17, um, and that's really what I guess led me towards, I went back to one of the institutions where I had been, and I was just terrified. And I just said to them, I think I'm going mad and I don't know what to do. And so they sent me to a psychologist. And probably within about 6 months, I'd learned to meditate.
Mm.
And my whole life just changed when I began to source who I was beyond my identity. And I
Mm.
began to source who I was from beyond my history, beyond my psychology, beyond, the pain that was there. And I had a context within which to process life. Um, and that's why right at the very beginning, when you said, can you tell people who you are and what you do? It's like, I don't really know. I'm 62 and I'm still kind of finding out.
But you're such an overcomer, and you're just sharing that now. Because I asked you, I said, have you overcome anything? And then you brought up a client, and I thought, oh, he
Mm,
doesn't want to bring up
mm,
his stuff. And then here you
mm,
are. And
mm,
wow, what a powerful story. I'm also
mm.
curious, how did you handle your parents' death? Did you
Oh, yeah, great question.
did you
You,
reconcile with them, or were you angry at them for not being the parents you needed them to be, for abandoning you?
Well, it's been a very big journey since then. When my father died, he was back in New Zealand, where I originally come from. But I live in Australia, and I had very little to do with him. I'd maybe seen him 2 or 3 times in 50 years. So when he died, um, I I remember I slumped down in a chair, and I didn't move for like 4 hours. I just sat there, just kind
Wow.
of vacant, and kind of going, and all of these connections were being made, and all of these insights were happening and occurring. And I realized I was free. And I realized the impact that he had had on me, that he didn't like me. He didn't like how I lived my life. He didn't like my values. And what in that 4 hours while I was just sitting there, I went, oh my God, I've held myself back because I didn't want to incur his dislike.
Wow, this is deep. See, these are those hidden traumas. And
Exactly.
you're 62 and you're just,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yes. And then 2 weeks later, my mother died.
Were they still together?
No, no, they hadn't been together for
That's
like,
even odder. That's odder
yeah.
because, it's so much deeper than what we even know. It's almost like a God divine thing,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
usually lovers, they've been together forever. The movie The Notebook, they die close,
Oh, yes.
right? And
Yeah.
so here they were estranged, and they died within
Yep.
a few weeks of each other.
Yep. Mm.
Wow.
And I had spent more time with my mother, but still not a lot of time. But I felt connected to her. I mean, the work that I do in the world, my creative pursuit, my love of language and theatre and poetry, all came from her. She was an artist. She was a teacher. She was a social activist. She, worked with people about making things happen. I am her son, you know, but she was never my mother, if you get the distinction.
I'm sure
And
people can relate to this, Julian.
yeah, and
Nothing is more painful sometimes than family drama or parent drama.
yeah,
It'd be so
Mm.
painful. Mm-hmm.
So I did go to be with her, and the Maori tradition. So my heritage is Maori from New Zealand. Is you go and you actually be with the dead body. So I heard in the morning she died. I went and booked my flight, flew up to where she was here in Australia, and my brother flew in from China, and we're there in this aged person's home. There's our mother's dead body lying there, and we're sitting there talking to her, talking to one another, eating takeaway, drinking beer, and sharing stories, and feeling her spirit there, you know. And so we're talking to her, both good, bad, and whatever, because that's the Maori ways. You go be with them, and you leave nothing, you leave no stone unturned. Whatever you want to say, you say it. You just say it, you know. And you just keep looking into your heart to say what's next, what's next, what next. And I shared, I'm writing a book, and so I read some of the book to her. So you know, and then the following day we did a long chant together, and we felt her leave. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
felt her spirit leave.
And do you feel
Uh,
at peace with this, or you said it's kind of
Well, look, it's to come back to the theme of, I guess, of trauma, is on the surface of it all, I thought I was fine, you know, and I came back, you know, so my dad died, my mother died, and, you know, I came back, and within a week, I had pneumonia.
whoa, grief, the biggest thing. I didn't know because you told me you were sick, and
Mm,
there you go,
mm.
folks. Grief is held in the lungs. That's just Chinese medicine number one.
Yeah.
Wow, so you are healing and you are detoxing through that.
Yes, yes, yes. And that I feel that you know, and so I'm at the tail end of it now. I'm still not back to full health. Um, but yeah, I guess I just wanted to say, you know, you know, it's a big journey, life. It's a big, mysterious journey, you know, and in those moments with pneumonia where, you know, no matter what, I couldn't get out of bed, and you know, I'm really kind of active,
Um,
and to be able to be like boom, flat, no energy, not able to get better of my own volition was,
Facing yourself.
yeah,
You
you
can't
know,
distract yourself. You can't go out. You know, you have to just
yeah,
kind of recuperate. Wow.
yeah. So you know, as I said, I think we all have, you know, trauma might be a loaded word, but we all
Totally.
have
There's
left.
big T, big trauma,
Yeah,
and little
yeah,
T trauma. So,
yeah.
but you've dealt, I mean, I would just say you've had a lot happen in your life.
Mm,
But you're very introspective, you're very inquisitive, asking those right questions, because I know one of our questions I've asked you, what do you want, you know, what can we talk about? And you said, what's an empowering way to hold this situation?
mm.
And
Wow.
you were holding it.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Look, I do think, you know, in
There's
the,
so
you
much
know,
pain with the people I work with, and if we do a call, you know, when they purchase the summit, there's so much grief there. And isn't
mm,
it about the stories we create as well?
mm,
The beliefs we have
mm,
about, you can look at your story, and both of my parents died within a couple of weeks of each other, and then we can create a story about it. And it is
mm,
just a story, it's a meaning we put to it.
mm,
And it's heartfelt, it's emotional, and we
mm,
can move through it. I think that's better
mm.
than holding it down.
Yeah. Mm. Yes. Look, there's a lot in what you've just said. Um, I think being real is probably the most important thing. You know, really just being real, having someone really good to talk to.
Mhm.
I think it's really important, especially around stories, because stories can fester. You know, stories aren't necessarily true, and you know, the stories that we tell ourselves are so powerful, that we really do need to kind of check in. you know. And I love the work of Byron Katie, you know, and
I have
you
the
know,
book right here somewhere.
yeah, and there's that process that she does. I was talking with friends about it the other day, you know, and you know, is it true? So
Yeah,
the
this is
story.
her inquiry book, and
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, amazing work,
it's
you
free
know.
online, you guys. You can get it free, thework.com or thework.org.
Yeah, really worth, really, you know, some really simple and powerful processes, you know, in there, which I think are really well worth exploring. Really well worth exploring.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because it is just a story, and there's three sides to every story: your side, the other side, the other person's side, and the truth. And I know
Woo.
recently I had a belief, I had a story that ran through since I was 12, and it's the
Mm,
light has been shown on it and the truth. And here I was living with this story that was not true, that was an illusion,
mm,
and it really defined my life. So
mm.
I'm pretty much at this moment stunned that,
Wow.
yeah, I'm stunned that it wasn't the way that I believed it's been since I for 30 years. And it's all
Wow.
coming to light.
Yes.
So asking those questions, talking to people, and now
Mm,
finding your own truth.
mm,
And that goes with alignment too. Because if you're
mm,
not telling yourself the truth, or this torn insides, it's really knocks you out of alignment. And I say causes the depression, the anxiety,
mm,
the ruminating thoughts.
mm, mm. You know, and I do think we've personalized and pathologized a lot of the human experience.
Pathology.
I,
Yes, causing
you
those,
know,
diagnosing us.
yes, you know, and I guess, you know, if I can kind of have a little bit of um, kind of a political moment, I suppose, at the moment.
I'm
You know,
scared.
I think around, you know, psychology and pharmacology and big pharma. And I also think that, you know, the personal growth industry has a vested interest in people believing they're broken and need to be fixed, that they're not well, that they're mentally ill. And I think we live in an increasingly sickening society. A lot of the structures, you know, around the financial system, the social system, the political system, it's no wonder, you know, anxiety and depression and mental illness are on the increase, because we live in an increasingly dehumanizing world. And we come up with all of these new tags, you know, oh, you've got depression, or you've got bipolar, or you've, you know, and, you know, new ailments and maladies being created every day. Oh, that's an exaggeration.
No,
But
well, there's lots of new stuff coming out, and just really because I feel when I work with people with a lot of trauma, as
mm,
depending on how the severity is, they can almost get what we call syndromal. So then you
mm,
get all these weird illnesses, mystery illnesses, things that you can't figure out. The nervous system shuts
mm,
down, and you're not
yeah,
digesting food, you're not sleeping, you get dysregulated. And
mm.
I think the external world and the stress and the fast pacedness is really causing pathology.
Yes, yeah, 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 I agree. And I think some, you know, in some cases, a lot of us as individuals are saying, oh, I'm at fault. Oh, I'm too
Yes.
weak. Oh, I'm not well.
Mhm.
Rather than, you know what? This is a terrible system and it's not designed for human beings.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
um, I think human beings are amazing. You know, I love being a
And
human
resilient.
being.
Look how resilient you are,
Mm,
and not all that you've come through, because we went through half of this interview and you just
mm,
looked like you had it all together, no problems. And then
mm,
there was a lot of stuff that happened, but you really rose through it. You found that inner strength.
mm.
And I want to bottle that
Yeah.
up and give it to
Mm.
all of you. That like when Julian's there and he's down and he's hurting and he wants to be an actor and he's told he can't act worth anything. And
Mm,
you rose to it.
mm,
You rose to it, and you took all that
mm,
adversity, all those emotions you've experienced, and you
mm,
used that into your acting.
mm,
And that's where
mm.
we all have to just find those pieces of ourselves during those really hard times, those challenging times.
Mm.
And I think we can't do it alone. I think we often try to
Yeah,
do it alone.
yeah. I think it's really important. And I know, one of the other, times in my life when I was absolutely beside myself was being divorced. Um, and it wasn't my choice. I was really happily married. And I thought I thought my wife was too, but she wasn't. Um, and so I totally missed all of the signals, and I was absolutely shocked beyond belief when one day she said, "We're finished," and that was the end of it. There was no kind of discussion. I could tell that yes, she had made her mind up. It wasn't that there was no one else in the picture, but it was just like she just said, "Don't want to be married anymore." And I could not believe it. It was like I didn't have the brain cells to deal with it. And in the ensuing weeks, I came across this book, and one of the lines in there really, really stood out for me, where it said it's not just love that unites us as humans; it's the tragedies. And it was like, we all experience tragedy, we all experience loss. And I just got that. I just absolutely that. Life will crack you open, you know. And it isn't about being happily married. It isn't about having the right car, the right wife, the right house, the right handbag, the right motorbike. It's much deeper than that, you know. And I guess that's one of the things I've really learned about life is, that there's something inside me which is so magical, so beautiful, so exquisite, and so extraordinary. And no matter what happens on the outside, this thing in here wants to be expressed. And
Beautiful, beautiful, and thriving. And you really do seem like you are thriving. If
mm,
I were to take you back 30 years,
mm,
when you were 30 or even
mm,
40,
mm.
was it harder for you? You gained
Yeah,
a lot of wisdom.
yes, yes, it was. It was. I was really battling. Um, Again, in my 30s, like as I said, when I was, in my late teens, I was having panic attacks. They kind of came back in my early 30s, and again, it's like, oh my God, this is just, I've been meditating now for 17, 18 years. Why the heck is this happening?
Was there some
And
bad things going on in life that you were tolerating and accepting and not changing? I find, when you get really depressed and it's those stuck feeling where there's something
mm,
that needs to change and maybe
mm.
you just were too afraid to change. Or was this around the divorce?
No, it was prior to the divorce. So it was probably the happiest period of my life. I
Interesting.
had just I had just got married. My business was going really, really well, and it was a bit like I was now strong enough to deal with things that had been unconsciously unresolved. I
Okay.
start, yeah. So what I remember, actually, you reminded me of the moment where I was I was lying down after I had just meditated. I was in this really calm, beautiful state. And all of a sudden, I had what I've since learned is called an occluded memory.
Okay.
And it's a memory that gets shut down. And it was the memory of being um, um, where my mother was violent to me. And I had shut that memory down. So it was all of these submerged thoughts and feelings began to come through into my awareness, and I had to deal with them. I had to, go and do therapy, and I had to do
Yeah.
energetic alignments and be with all of these things that I had shut down. But it wasn't until I was really happy and strong enough that I could, you know.
Interesting. Because that's really interesting. Because it's almost like, who would you be without the struggle?
Yeah.
Because you obviously then you got out of the struggle, but then
Mm,
almost sometimes when we get what we want, I know for
mm,
me, it's
mm,
a little overwhelming. Where
mm,
do I go with all this chaos?
mm,
You know what I'm
mm,
saying with that? And
mm.
the work that I do is very deep. And I will tell you, we all have those hidden traumas. And
Mm,
that's what came out. And when you quiet your mind
mm,
that stuff lives inside the body. And I could be working with someone and who has neck pain. This happened. I had neck pain, and she's very in a relaxed, calm, parasympathetic, restful state. And she tightened up. And I said, what happened? And she goes, I was just, a flash of my mother came to me. And I saw her face. And my mother committed suicide. She hung herself. So here she was, she took that on, and she's a woman in her 70s who has neck pain now. And when we address that memory and I renegotiate that experience and that trauma, the muscles just relaxed. So we do need to quiet and go through. And when we stop being busy, stop any addictive behavior, surfing the internet or surfing Facebook, we get in touch with ourselves, that stuff can come up. And it's a little scary at times, but it is the way to heal.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a fascinating process, this journey of growth, you know. And I think the context that we hold, that we place around it, is really, really important. You know, that life isn't here to defeat you. You know, that life isn't a competition. Life isn't about winning. It's really, you know, it's an amazing journey. For me, it's very much a spiritual journey. You know, and it's about really learning, you know, and integrating some of the, you know, the bigger mysteries that sit behind the notion of identity, and that sits behind, you know, who we think we are. I think there's a far bigger journey to be had, other than just the notion of winning in, you know, business or in life.
Or surviving, overcoming. And I guess this question popped up into my head, Julian. Is there a time where you weren't able to pull yourself through? Or did you eventually? So say someone here is having a very stuck moment. Like I have a stuck situation in my life I'm thinking of, and I'm kind of in that storm, and it's like, I think it's going to work out. I almost died. I survived that. Will this work out? And it's trusting. But have you been able, no matter how hard it's been, pull yourself through?
Yeah, always.
Always.
Always, always, always. Yeah, I think the game is kind of set up for us to get there. You know, and it's always just a matter.
The game of life is set up for us to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I remember giving a talk. Well, actually, when I launched Shine, and I said, life is designed to work out, but we just have to listen. We just have to really, really listen. You know, we weren't designed to kind of, you know, fuck up things. You know, we're actually, you know, life is designed to work. That was the phrase I used. Life is designed to work in our favor. But it's a matter of listening and shifting and being flexible and being open and inquisitive, you know. And I have never had a challenge that I haven't, you know, been able to, you know, understand what's really being asked of me, and then to make, you know, being willing to make the shifts, you know, being willing to let go of what needs to be let go of, being able to, you know, stepping up to whatever's, you know, being asked, you know, of me. Yeah.
That's great. And I have, like I said, I'm having a flashback, and I have my vision board here. I'm a little nervous.
Oh, yes.
I'm nervous to talk about this because I went of my perfectionistic self. I mean, it's like, it's just fully professional here. Like, I mean, this is just, you know,
wow.
3D stickers and everything. And you asked me what I wanted. And I showed this to you, and I think you said, maybe you could fix my memory. And you said, what do you want? Why do you want it? And you were really digging deep why I put these things on here. And it really threw me off in a way, because I have a story, and I think a lot of it is trying to heal childhood and move through and give myself those things that I didn't have. And I'm still striving for it. But what do you tell people about doing vision boards and how to get clear on what to put on it?
Wow, that is such a good question. I love vision boards. I love anything to do with vision. there's only one proviso, is that 9 out of 10 people,
Here we go. Here we go.
yeah,
I'm one of
yeah,
them.
yeah, 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 yeah. Most people's goals are papering over the cracks in their life.
Let me just sit with that. Your goals are papering over the cracks in your life.
And so I call them default goals.
That's deep. That's deep.
Yeah, because most of us will go, oh, I want to, I want this in my career. And then when you ask, why is that? And you kind of, you can kind of dig down into, because my father thought I was useless. So if I've got a really successful career, he will go, son, you've made it,
Well,
So
doing something for others subconsciously, perhaps sometimes. Like it's
yeah,
not our own inner will that we're born
that's
with.
correct. Yeah. So
Like,
that's some of the work that I do with people, is really kind of drawing down into the intuitive self. That's why those 4 questions of, purpose, genius, pathway, and promise, because you hold those in the fiber of your being. So to have clarity on what you're really here to do and what you really want to do, that's kind of guiding principle number 1. But knowing that most people will, it's like, oh, I want a relationship, but really what they want to do, I don't want to be alone. I'm terrified of being alone. So I'll have a nice man or a nice woman, or, blah, blah, blah. And we'll have a dog because, the dog will make me feel better. So most of the things are a reaction to something that's missing, rather than, what are you truly longing for? So that is I think vision boards are great, but it's just to know that whoever's facilitating the process isn't just leading you down the path of your identity,
well,
because
that's what we have to. I mean, I did this on my own, and I'm left to my own devices. And I want that hot tub in my backyard. I want to go see Julian in Australia. Those are on my things that I want to do, and I think that's from my heart and my deep intuition that I want to. I love hot tubs. That's my thing. But again, as a child, we had a beautiful hot tub in the community. And I spent many of times with my family under the palm trees and enjoying that. So is that why I want to have that warm fuzzy from childhood in my current day on my bullet, on my board. So anyway, it's so deep.
yeah, and I think the deeper we go, the more truer we are.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I think that's what's really important, because the truth has a resonance, and that resonance is the critical piece. When someone goes, whoa, that's what I really want. Oh my God. Like I was working with a client just last week, and I've been working with her on and off for probably about 3 years. And in her very first conversation, what she really wanted was an amazing relationship, and then she had this incredible business, and we worked on this business. And then I didn't see her for about 8 or 9 months. She got back in touch with me, and we had a few more conversations. And then in the last conversation, I said, wow, you still really do want the one thing, don't you? And she said, what? And I said, relationship. And it was like everything just fell away. Like I guess another way, this is possibly a better way of explaining it around vision, is what's your heart's deepest desire?
I'm asking, I just asked myself that, and boy, I think I really have to dig. I've been on autopilot for a while and creating this, online series, lots of these. And so that's a deep question. That's probably where the good meditation comes in. Really just asking yourself, or work with Julian.
Yeah. And because, I'm going to come back to the thing of resonance. Resonance is everything, because especially So if you thought we were deep, this is the deep now. Is around resonance. That when we really truly contact our heart's deepest desire, um, that's when the universe moves everything. That's when synergy and synchronicity occurs. And that's what I'm always listening for and looking for in when I'm coaching and when I'm working on projects. I know we're on track when things just happen. You know, there's a project I'm working on at the moment. It's the biggest project I've ever worked on in my whole life, and you know, it involves the launching of satellites. It involves national and
Wow.
international. It involves NASA. It involves, you know.
I'm impressed, Julian.
So am I. So am I. So am I. I'm impressed as well. Um, and a bit overawed, but I'd stay with the principles, the guiding principles. What's the energy like? Is the energy flowing? And I know it's flowing when all of a sudden, you know, someone comes up and this happened a couple of weeks ago. So a very famous person in New Zealand heard about the project, got in touch and said, you know, with my business partner, said, can I meet you for lunch? And he was like the New Zealander of the year and very well-known entrepreneur. And he sat down with him and said, you know, what's this project you're working on? And it's about regenerating the culture and agricultural industry in the Cook Islands, which is in the South Pacific. And it's about
Sure.
restoring the culture there and using business as a vehicle for that.
Wow.
And towards the end of the lunch, the guy says, I want to give you one of my machines, which is a food processing plant, valued at about $500,000. And so he said, I want to give it to you. You know, I want to support you in what you're doing. It's a fantastic project. And my business partner says, no, look, it's really nice, but the way we've chosen to work with this is that we collaborate with people. If you like this project, we would love to collaborate with you. We would love to go into business with you to make this happen. We really love the fact that you'd like to give us a machine, and thank you. So the guy puts his hand out and says, okay, we're now in business together.
Mm-hmm.
And,
because
you know,
you asked, and you followed your truth, your business model.
See, now this is the main point is Andre and I are very clear what the project is about energetically.
Energetically, guys, feel that, because you have to be in alignment with.
That's right.
That resonance is a sense of flow, a sense of ease, right?
Now you see, the resonance for me is about connection to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
We are all part of this mysterious thing called the universe. And for those of us who choose to be of service to this resonance, the universe will give you projects, the universe will give you things, and it's about aligning energetically with what this project is and aligning, with the essence of it. And I know I'm in alignment with when things like that happen. And then we have another person step forward, one of the wealthiest entrepreneurs in New Zealand, meets with Andre and says, what is it that you need and what are you doing? And he said, so that's probably somewhere between $6 to $10 million. He says, I will earmark that money for you. Keep me informed. And again, Andre's going, I don't know that we want your money, not meaning to be rude, but we're working in a.
He's a short.
We're working in a different way. So, and this was one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the process. That it's one thing to have a vision, and it might be for great health. It might be for, we know that we're really called to be in a relationship or in a business or, take our life to the next level. There is a process to follow. And resonance is the underpinning, the energy that energy and intelligence cannot be separated.
And I think we have to really spend time inquiring in ourselves and in a deeper level and in collaborating with others, asking, what do you think? And not, to pull it together, because if we are on autopilot, trapped in our trauma box, whatever you want to call it, then it's hard to make those changes.
Well, I would kind of be a bit cheeky, and I would reverse it. It's when we are attuned to the resonance,
Okay.
that is autopilot.
Okay.
Most of
Oh,
us, yeah. So it's just a different take on it. That when we are in our trauma box, we are not on autopilot. We are governing and controlling. It's the identity
upstream.
running the show.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
going upstream.
yeah. And whereas autopilot is being absolutely attuned with divine consciousness, being, in the resonant field. It's about being aligned. It's about being attuned. It's about flow, you know.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mm.
And I that was a good place to stop, but I do have a curiosity with
Yeah.
the woman client.
Mm.
You're helping her with her business. She
Mm.
goes away. She's probably doing really well in business, but is she
Mm.
just not appreciating what she has because she doesn't have that relationship?
That's such a great question. That is such a great question. And where we got to at the end of the conversation was that the relationship was more important than the business,
Mm-hmm.
and that what she really needed to be honest with herself was, yeah, and be humble. What I really do want is to focus around the relationship, and I need to be honest with that's what I really want, and the business wasn't the primary, you know,
It was
creative thing, because
pulling.
she's now selling the business.
Oh, wow. But it was pulling
Mm.
her away then.
Exactly. So there was this tension there,
That takes you
and
out of alignment.
yes, exactly. Yeah. So it is ultimately it's about resonance and alignment and serving the highest good.
Mhm. Well, Julian Noel, you had such a beautiful message to share today. Thank you. I feel like we're doing a biography of Julian, wisdom talk. This was a really nice exploration of you and your experiences. I think you're giving a lot of strength and hope here. I know you are. So thank you
Mm.
so much for doing this interview with me here today.
Oh, look, really great pleasure, Phaedra. I really appreciate it. And for those of you who have sat through all of this, if you have any questions, or if there's anything you'd like to explore, please get in touch with me or email me, or you can contact me on Facebook. However you'd like to do it that works for you, I'd be more than happy to be entering into a dialogue, and if I can add value to you, I'm more than happy to do that. And yeah, Phaedra, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much.
You're a good man, Julian Noel. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Phaedra.
Well, that was a nice, deep, exploratory interview with Julian Noel. I hope that you found just meaning. Really, as you listen to Julian's story, I hope that you were able to dig deep inside you, inside your story, and take a look back at your life and how it's changed, how it's grown. How did you overcome challenging times? And what can you do now after watching this interview to thrive? What can you do? I think one of the biggest takeaways is really pausing to go into my heart, your heart, go into your heart and see what your heart desires. And then create your goals from that, not the story. Let go of the past and let go of the story. And right here, right now, you are safe. And as you listen to these interviews, I hope you are getting this empowerment, this I can recharge my life. I'm doing it right now. That's what I want for you. That's why I'm doing this, to serve you, to help you. I have been there, and some days I do get there, and I have to resource and find my way out. Okay, so I hope you love this series. I know I loved creating it and bringing it to you. And these are available. This series is available to listen to during those challenging times. When you're hurting, when you're stressed, feel free to go ahead and purchase this series. You'll get a couple of bonuses, which also include a session with me. You and I can connect one-on-one, and we can help you get into your heart, to look at your truth. What do you want? What do you need to get back into alignment so that you can really thrive in your life? That's the great thing. That's the message I hope you take away with today and throughout this series. Thank you so much for watching, and have a beautiful, blessed day ahead of you.